Well,
So
we'll
you
go
don't
ahead and
live
get started. Our speaker today is Kevin Hymans. Kevin works at MUSC, the business department. He's a parishioner of Cathedral of St. John the Baptist for about 4 years. He's been to the Charleston area about 6 years. Lives on Johns Island. He's got a master's degree in Catholic Studies from Franciscan University of Steubenville. And he's guiding about 50 men at the cathedral through Exodus 90, a 90-day spiritual exercise which culminates on Easter. So with that, Kevin.
Thank you so much, I appreciate it. All right. Sorry, everyone, just give me a minute to unlock my computer here. All right, excellent. Hello, everyone. Like Tony said, my name is Kevin Hymans. I go to the Cathedral of St. John's. I was raised a Catholic, but unfortunately, I think like many Catholics, I fell away from the faith kind of during high school and college. A couple of years ago, I had a reconversion. I was really kind of blessed that the Lord called me back. I was fortunate enough that I had some GI Bill money available, so I was able to attend Franciscan University, where I got a master's in Catholic Studies, and my heart was just really set aflame for the faith. So anyway, I started doing some spiritual direction with Father Paul Lacombe, the parochial vicar over at the cathedral, and I got involved in Exodus 90. Its flagship program is kind of the 90 days that you see up here, January 20th to April 20th. Culminating on Easter, but there's actually formation year-round. So I got started during the St. Michael's Lent, which was kind of first initiated by St. Francis of Assisi back in the 1200s in August. And I was speaking to Father Lacombe about it and my experience, and he just started kind of culminating on maybe we could spread this to some other men, not just in our parish, but in the wider community. And so this is actually the first year. And Rob, if you want to chip in at all, I know there's some other gentlemen involved in this program as well. Please feel free. But from the cathedral, this is actually our first year kind of launching this program, which has been really exciting and really fruitful. So I'm going to play a quick I'm sorry, here's our agenda. I'll go over a quick intro video so you can get kind of a feel what the program is. We'll go over exactly what it is, kind of what the 3 core pillars of the program are, why men should join, do some testimonies, and then I'll go into a little more specific details about kind of the local application and how it's affecting our local community.
Is it time? Is it time to check out? And check in. If you're up for the challenge, in 90 days, you can live with more purpose. Learn more. Listen more. Believe more. Become a better dad and husband. A better man. All it takes is leaving behind what's holding you back and embracing what will lead you forward. It will be tough at times, but it's worth everything. Exodus 90 isn't about the struggle. It's about the promise of what's to come. It's not about living different for 90 days. It's about living different after day 91. Is it time for your exodus?
Okay, so what exactly is Exodus 90? Exodus 90 is a 90-day spiritual exercise. Like I said before, it kind of culminates on Easter. It really takes its roots from the traditions of the early church, especially the Desert Fathers. So it's a communal exercise. We form fraternities, which are comprised of 6 to 8 men, and basically we commit to a structure of prayer and ascetic disciplines. At our cathedral community, we have roughly 50 men, but we keep the fraternities to a size of about 6 or 8. That's the goal. And the reason we do that is because it's supposed to be an intimate setting where you can really be vulnerable with men. Obviously, if you're in a group of 50, it's going to be kind of difficult to develop those deep relationships and kind of be vulnerable with each other. So there's daily readings, it's paired with reflections, and we start with the book of Exodus. We currently, I think we're on day 46 maybe, roughly, and we just transitioned over to the book of Jonah. There's tons of other spiritual resources, so really you get out of it what you put into it. For this year, we have weekly spiritual direction videos, so users can submit questions, and it's with Father Boniface Hicks, who I believe is a Benedictine monk. There's also a weekly podcast series, which dives a little bit deeper into the Desert Fathers. We have things like formation packs, so they'll go over topics like masculinity, how to be a better father, the role of beer in Christian culture, all sorts of things. And we also have daily mass readings as well. The program is really focused on kind of these 3 core pillars. So prayer, asceticism, and fraternity. And in the next few slides, I'll dive a little bit deeper into each one. So prayer is the most important pillar, I would argue. Prayer is a conversation with God. Like I said, it's the most fundamental and important part of the journey, because you can't have a meaningful relationship with God or with anyone unless you're in kind of constant communication. And I will point out as well, we do silent prayer as well. So it's not just us speaking to God. I think Christians, Catholics, we have a tendency, maybe even more so Catholics with our kind of rich library of vocal prayers to just speak to God, but prayer is really a two-way conversation. So unless we're dedicating time to also listen to God in silence, then that relationship's not going to be fostered. As Jesus taught us in the Gospel of John, my sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. So it kind of underscores the importance of listening to God as well. St. Teresa taught us that prayer is putting oneself in the hands of God at His disposition and listening to His voice in the depths of our heart. So that's kind of why our disciplines are: we offer a morning offering. There's the daily reading and reflection, like I spoke about. We do a daily holy hour, and it's encouraged to do it in front of the Eucharist if possible. And we do a minimum of 20 minutes of silent prayer within that larger hour. We do a nightly examine, and then that last bullet, celebrate the Lord's Day with intentionality. I know, me personally as a football fan, Sundays typically looked, for me, I go to Mass and then I come home and I eat tons of food and I watch football all day and I'm kind of glued in front of the TV. And that's not really what the Lord's Day should be. This program is to help us foster the spirit of charity. So we celebrate the Lord's Day with intentionality by spending time with loved ones, fostering relationships with those in our life. We just try to follow this program, like I said, just living our Sundays intentionally, not just kind of using it as a weekend day to check out and rest. So this is usually the part that scares people when they're considering doing Exodus 90. So asceticism is also important. It comes from that Greek word that I'm not going to attempt to pronounce in front of you, but it essentially means training. If you look at most of the saints in our church history, they all kind of demonstrated the importance of living an ascetic life in one form or another. we do this because it teaches us to say no to lesser things. So when God calls us for greater things, we have the ability to say yes. It also helps us to kind of focus on the people in our lives and what's truly important in our life. Through this program, we're humbled. I was very humbled, and I can speak a little bit about that later if you'd like, but this program kind of humbles you, and it teaches you that you have to depend on God for everything. And then there's a quote from St. Mark the Ascetic: "A seed will not grow without earth and water, and a man will not develop without voluntary suffering and divine help." The disciplines look like there's a ton, but it's actually, I don't think, as bad as it seems. And some of them are good. So full night's sleep, 8 hours, that is something that I was not doing. Maybe getting 5 or 6 hours of sleep a night, and getting that full night's sleep really allows me to focus not just on God, but kind of my daily vocation and the people in my life. Cold showers, we exercise at least 3 times per week. We fast on Wednesdays and Fridays throughout the 90 days, and that includes eating no meat, no unnecessary purchases, no alcohol, soda, or sweet drinks, no unnecessary smartphone or computer use, no video games, TV, snacks, desserts, or sweets, and we're encouraged only to listen to music that lifts our soul to God. So not necessarily Christian music, but if we listen to like classical music, for example, and find beauty in that, God is beauty. So just trying to limit what we intake. And then lastly, the third core is fraternity. So isolation is when we're often most susceptible to whims, temptations, the empty show of the devil. So having that fraternity is huge for accountability. Like I said, we're developing relationships with brothers who truly know who we are, what we're going through, what's going on in our lives, kind of what our personal struggles are, things like that. And I think this is probably one of the biggest benefits that I've seen is I think in our secular world today, there's kind of a skewed perspective of what masculinity should be. So we really stress that it's not about who you know, how successful you've been, how you have it all together. No one's braggadocious. Rather, it's an opportunity to get together with other men and truly be honest and open about our struggles, our failures, our fears, things that we all struggle with in this life as Christians. Our disciplines are a daily anchor check-in and weekly fraternity meeting. So within your fraternity, you have what's called an anchor, and within those 6 men of your fraternity, this one other person is kind of your partner through this. So it's at minimum a daily check-in. Me and my anchor will usually have conversations on the phone. If I'm tempted to, say I'm hungry on a fast day and I want to go for that snack drawer or something like that, I'll shoot him a quick text and just let him know, hey, I'm kind of struggling, and his encouragement's huge, and vice versa. So it's kind of a core relationship within your fraternity. And I know we were just talking about how much Father Mike we got, but we're going to get a little bit more. So bear with me.
This whole thing is called Exodus 90, which is based off of the journey of the people of Israel, God's chosen people, who were delivered from a place of slavery to a place of freedom. But it wasn't a straight line. Like it wasn't a thing where they went from, we're in bondage, and now all of a sudden we're in the promised land, and life is easy. It was actually, they were unable or unwilling to go into the promised land, right? They scouted out the promised land, and they weren't able to go there. And so the Lord God said, okay, here's the thing. You're so used to being a slave, you don't know actually what it is to be free. You're so used to being a slave that you don't actually know what it is to fight. You're so used to being a slave that you don't know what it is to have courage. And wait, I thought the Lord saved me. I thought the Lord loves me. I thought the Lord is with me. Yes, all those things were true of the Jewish people too. The Lord saved them from slavery. He was with them. He was leading them. They lost courage. I think those 40 years of walking in the wilderness not only trained them to be soldiers, and not only trained them to know how to fight, not only trained them to know how to trust in the Lord, it trained them how to be courageous. Because even when you're weak, the Lord's with you. You don't have to give in discouragement, because even though we're still in the midst of the desert, God is with you. Especially for those men who find themselves so discouraged, who find themselves in that place of just like, I feel so beaten.
Exodus 90 is for you, not because it's not a beating your chest kind of like I'm the man's man kind of a situation. It is, man, I don't know how to be free. I can't even imagine what a free life would look like. Do I have it in me to be courageous and to discover in the course of these 90 days that maybe I don't, but maybe in that weakness I can discover what St. Paul discovered. He said, when I'm weak, then I'm strong, because Jesus said, my grace is sufficient for you. And this is like in so many ways, the unknown secret of Exodus 90. It is not for strong men. It's for men who want to be strong. It's not for warriors. It's for men who realize they're called to become warriors. They'll go into the promised land where there are enemies. And trust me there. And that's the great call of every Christian, and that's the great call of every man who says yes to Exodus 90.
Okay, so why should people do this? Cold showers are miserable, right? So why would I sign up to do this? It's common for modern men, women as well, to have pharaohs or idols. So examples are alcohol, pornography, social media, sports, comparison, wealth, legacy. I invite all of you right now to just take some time and think about some things that maybe pull you away from the Lord or pull you away from the people in your life. I think we all have them when we kind of do deep introspection. I know for me, ones that I am still dealing with are political news and television. So it wasn't uncommon for me to pull out my cell phone throughout the day every hour, 2 hours, and check the news. Like anything's going to change, right? That fast. Or television. It wasn't uncommon for me and my fiance after a long day of work to just plop in front of the TV and kind of not speak for 2 or 3 hours and watch TV shows. That time can obviously be spent in significantly better ways. So I think we all have pharaohs that we need addressed. This spiritual exercise also helps us to remember who we are, that we're sons of God, whom God has called forth to love. We all have the opportunity to reflect the love that Christ shows to others in our life. This helps us to grow in the power to say no to the common things of the world that hold us back. It helps us to find the essential support, encouragement, and mercy of other men. We're all striving through not just the same disciplines, but the same things in this life. It helps us to attain true freedom for commitment, sacrifice, and love. Helps us find a life of meaning, integration, and eternal satisfaction. And just really foster our relationship with the Lord. Another kind of, I alluded to this before, but another, I think, benefit of this and why men should consider doing this program is, I remember our first fraternity meeting after our first week was completed, and I kind of went into it assuming that the topic would be mostly people complaining about the cold shower, myself included, about the cold showers, or I really miss these snacks afterward or something. Kind of the common theme, the one thing that everyone talked about was, wow, I didn't realize before how much time I truly have during the day. Like I said, when you take away those 3 hours of TV every day or cell phone use, you find you really have a lot of free time. And it's been a beautiful thing. I know my fiance and I, like I said, we would watch a lot of TV. Now we're playing games together, we're puzzling together, we're just having deeper conversations on a nightly basis. So for me, I've seen immediate fruit, and I know a lot of the men in my fraternity have as well. Just some quick testimonies so you don't think I'm a liar and the only one saying that this is a good program. Some of the men you can see up here, they were taught how to pray better, living their faith better, becoming more patient, present, and able to lead their families better. And you can see Bishop Rhodes down there said, after 90 days, men experience true freedom. I've seen this fruit with my own eyes. Okay, now our local community, what are we doing at a local level? So for our community, we have roughly 50 men participating in 6 fraternities. We have a wide range of ages, professions, and faith journeys. So we have some men who are Eastern Orthodox, we have new converts, We have a couple men who actually aren't Catholic yet, but are interested in the faith. And it's really kind of a beautiful thing with this broad kind of demographic group that makes this up. We're learning from each other. For example, one man was having kind of spousal issues, a younger man, and one of the older men in our community who had been married for, I don't know, 25 or 30 years was able to kind of give some advice that maybe the other younger men wouldn't have been able to. So it's just been a beautiful thing having kind of all these different men in the group. We meet every Saturday morning at the Cathedral of St. John the Baptist, and we have a Mass. It is open to the public, so if anyone's ever interested in attending Mass Saturday morning, you're more than welcome to come. It's offered for our intentions, the men going through it, which is a nice opportunity. Afterwards, we usually have breakfast where we socialize with the men in the broader community. So it's a chance for us not to just talk with those in our fraternity, but the wider community as well. Father Paul Lacombe, who I mentioned before, the parochial vicar at the cathedral, he'll come in and he'll usually do like a teaching, or he'll allow us to ask questions. So talk basically on any topic. Our first few weeks, I think a lot of us probably weren't praying for an hour each day, so he was kind of covering some prayer techniques and struggles we might have in prayer. So it's a great opportunity to learn. And then afterwards, we usually do a community holy hour. A few times we've had the exposed sacrament. It's not always possible. He's running confession right after that, but it's an opportunity for us to do a holy hour with our brothers. I think it's been great for unity within the diocese. What kind of just started as our vision for this program at the cathedral has kind of expanded beyond. So we have members from the cathedral, Sacred Heart, College Charleston, St. Teresa Little Flower, and I would say actually about a third of our brothers are from the American College of the Building Arts. So it's been fantastic. Now, I will preface this with saying some of the average numbers I got from Google, and the internet's always right? So don't quote me on some of these numbers, but I just want to kind of highlight the impact of what we're doing. So for the sodas, the snacks, TV hours, and phone hours, I was basically searching for average use per American. But you can see that, holy hours prayed at least over this 90 days will be 4,500 hours of prayer, which is amazing. 1,250 days of fasting, which is amazing. And I think kind of, phone hours and above really highlights some of the free time and healthier choices that we're making as a community. Like I said, this program is kind of in its infancy, not Exodus 90 as a program, but us as a local community undertaking this challenge. So what do we have looking ahead? Right now we're kind of in the initial phases, but we're thinking we're going to kind of pitch a community Marian consecration to the men that are participating in our Exodus 90 program. Marian consecration is something I'm really passionate about, so I hope it goes forward. Our mother's the mediatrix of all graces. So as Pope Pius XI said, we know also that all things are imparted to us from God, the greatest and best, through the hands of the Mother of God. And so I think it's just powerful, especially if we do this group consecration and then continue to do Exodus 90 together. I mean, if you imagine those numbers I showed before, all the grace that we're getting through this program, if we can offer that back up to our mother and say someone's on the other side of the world dying and is in need of conversion before death, she can take those graces and use it for that person. So I think it's an amazing opportunity to help people, all around the world. Like I hinted at before, it's not just the 90-day program. It started as that, but it's actually year-round. So these are just some of the other challenges they have. But basically, it's a continuous thing if we choose to do it. So at the culmination of our 90 days, we're going to see if any of the men are kind of interested in continuing with this. And then Bishop Jock, I think it actually came out, or it hit my email inbox maybe 1 or 2 days ago. This kind of multi-year plan called Via Fidelis that he's kind of leading the diocese in. And Exodus 90 was actually listed as a personal resource. So I think we can try to push it for some other men, help some other men get involved. And then I think the biggest thing too is just maintaining these relationships among the men in the parishes. These brotherhoods. Is anyone here a veteran by any chance? A couple men. So yeah, I think you guys probably know, like anytime you go through a struggle together, you form kind of this like iron bond that doesn't go away. And I think I've seen that in Exodus 90, and that's been another beautiful fruit of this program. And this kind of just summarizes the whole theme of this program. So Exodus chapter 9, verse 1, let my people go that they may serve me. So I want to thank you for this opportunity to kind of speak about the program, what we're doing. I do want to open it up for questions, but I did jot down some common questions that I get real quick. So can women join? I've been asked this a lot. Women unfortunately cannot join Exodus 90. It's just tailored, I think, to some of the struggles that men face. And also I think keeping the group only men really allows men to kind of be vulnerable about some of the things that they're going through. But there are similar programs. So if this is something that interests you, or maybe might be interesting to some of the women in your life, there are definitely options out there. I'm not super familiar with them, but there's one called Magnified 90, and there's another one called Fiat 90. So if this is something that interests you, that'd be, I think, great to start up in the community. Can non-Catholics join Exodus 90? They can. We encourage that. Obviously, we want to share the faith with as many people as possible. But Exodus 90 does stick to the precepts and teachings of the church. And then kind of the last question that I've gotten a lot, and maybe some of you are wondering, is if you want to join, say now, it's after 90 days, or it's not feasible for you to kind of travel to the cathedral on Saturdays, or maybe you live a little bit further away. There are remote fraternities, so that's actually how I started. In August, there wasn't a community group that I was aware of, and so I joined a remote fraternity, and we had members actually in Australia, in Canada. We were kind of all over the world. So there's always opportunities to join. With that, I just want to open it up if anyone has questions, either about the program, my experience, or anything like that.
Just curious about the, you've broken your 50 guys into 6 to 8 person groups. How do you, guide them or ensure that, each group's having kind of a good positive, what you're hoping to get them to get out of it?
Yeah, so we kind of identified, we use the term community leaders, but there's really no leaders in Exodus 90. Everyone participates the same. It's a fraternity, equal across the board, but we kind of identified a small group of men beforehand, before we kind of launched into the 90 days. And we met multiple times, talked about what our expectations were, kind of met with Father Combe, discussed what his expectations were. And when we were getting ready to launch this program, we actually had, because you kind of hit day one running, so we met beforehand, so it wasn't a shock to anyone, and everyone knew what to expect. So when we did that, we met as a group of us 50 men. So I think kind of the key of this is going in just prepared, and all the men have done that. I think also one of the benefits of us meeting as a larger community on Saturday is the fraternities get a chance to interact with one another. So if there's something that's going well with one fraternity, they can kind of bounce some ideas off some of the other fraternities, and vice versa. We can troubleshoot together. So I realize I'm rambling a little bit. Hopefully that answered your question.
It did, and so you're saying you get the whole group together on Saturdays, and then that each fraternity gets together on their own at some of the time?
Yes, sir. So yeah, we meet as a fraternity, so just the 6 to 8 men once a week, and then the larger community of 50 men, we meet every Saturday morning. So.
What time is Mass at the Cathedral?
So typically 8:30.
On Saturdays?
On Saturday mornings, yeah. Depending on other events going on, the time might be bounced around, but it's usually at 8:30. This Saturday is 8:30. show up then, and we'll usually announce after that mass if the next week's going to be a different time. And also, this is my contact information up on the screen now. So if anyone ever has questions or wants to join about Saturday or something like that, feel free to just reach out to me.
I have a question, but I want to do the last question. Anyone else have another question?
I think there's one.
But kind of a thought, really. I'm doing Exodus 90 with the group from St. Clair.
Yeah.
There's about 50 of us out there, and Carl, and so forth. The cold showers, as you mentioned, will hold a lot of men back. But I have learned that I just use that. I mean, it's been a really great offering of prayer. There's so many. I had so many families that we either are friends with or know of that have lost loved ones. Whether it's a 15-month-old baby that fell in a pool, or someone who lost their 8-year-old after a routine tonsillectomy. It's just been a really great way for me to. I can be cold. I'm in the shower. I got my family. And that shower has not been nearly as cold, right? I mean, I'm staying in there for an extra couple minutes just to, I know it's good for you too, which is another thing, but it's just turned into a really great way to prayer, and so you just have to flip the script, a little bit on, I'm miserable because the shower's cold. No, I'm going to offer, that's what's worked for me at least, so.
100%.
So that's kind of how I think, men that are interested in this and they're intimidated by taking a cold shower,
Yeah.
Save water that way too. don't
You
you?
save some hot water. Save some electricity.
Shorter showers.
You are taking a shorter shower. But
Yeah.
it's been such a great experience so far. It's my first year doing it.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful, and thank you for sharing. One of the men in my fraternity actually said he viewed the kind of the pain and misery of the cold showers as a way to reflect on the pain that God feels every time we sin. So I thought that was kind of a really neat way to think of it. And then kind of like I was mentioning before, if we offer up those graces, we can kind of see that as a way of helping others by enduring that. And then I guess sticking to the theme of today, I was actually watching a video of Father Mike Schmitz before I decided to join up with Exodus 90 last year, and I thought it was interesting too. He kind of mentioned, you have to take cold showers, but so does about 60% of the world. We're very fortunate as Americans, so
Spoiled.
not having our chocolate when we want or our sodas every night, we're living like the rest of the world lives. So I think just keeping things in perspective has helped as well.
So you mentioned you had a daily check-in with the anchor. Is the anchor someone that's just partnered up with you, or is it a person that's in charge of the fraternity? Not in charge, but kind of a leader of the whole fraternity, or how does that work?
So it's just two brothers. I keep using the term leader, but I guess that's not really.
It's a peer.
It's a peer.
Yeah, we're all peers. I act in a fraternity leadership role, but really it's just working out the logistics of what we're going to be meeting and everything like that. We do have, someone kind of coordinate the prayers during our meeting and kind of direct the conversation, stuff like that. In my fraternity, we actually rotate, so we'll each take a week or something like that. But it's just a peer, another brother in the fraternity.
And some neat things come out of that, if I can add.
Please.
My anchor will be walking into church to do his holy hour, and he'll send me a text and say, "Hey, can I pray for you? What can I pray for you for today? What's an intention you have that I can add to my prayers?" So it's just powerful to think about how many people are praying for how many people. When he showed up there, the hours of prayer, which I didn't even think about how many hours you multiply it out. It's pretty cool. So.
Is there a question?
Yeah, I was just wondering, is this something that you do once or you do it every year?
Yeah, so this is my first year doing the 90-day flagship program. One of my brothers in my fraternity, I know this is his 5th year. The program does take the founders of the program, the men that kind of are in charge of administering the program or whatever at a corporate level. They actually build it from ground up every single year. So the disciplines are similar. Kind of the structure of the program is similar, but the reflections are going to be different. Like I said, I think I mentioned we have Father Hicks, who's a Benedictine monk, kind of doing our reflections and stuff like that this year. That person will be different every year. So even if you do it every single year, it'll be similar, but not exactly the same. So I would argue there's probably, fruit to be had if you did this repeatedly. So.
Not really a question, but I'm part of the St.
Yeah,
Clair
yeah.
CC group as well. And the cold showers almost prevented me from doing it. I'm a total wimp when it comes to cold. Like, got over that. And the way I think about it is Jesus suffering, how much he suffered. It's just a cold shower. Come on.
Right.
So you get in. But I would say what I'm going to benefit from the most are the habits that I'm developing now that I know will continue when the 90 days is over. So that's been the biggest positive.
Yeah, I know kind of along the same line. For me personally, fasting for me was, only the days that the church requires us. And if you read the Gospels, Jesus doesn't say if you fast, he says when you fast. So it's obviously very important. So that's something that I'm a sucker for food. I'm a sucker for snacks. So for me personally, that's something I was kind of humbled, and I was like, wow, I should probably be doing this more than twice a year or whatever. So there's definitely, like you said, I think things that I want to continue on with after the program, kind of day 91 plus. So.
Well, I know someone who's doing the program, and I know we're in Lent here, but I know on Super Bowl Sunday there was like dispensation, right? Okay. So I lead that into a question. I meant to tell people that two things, but so is St. Patrick's Day a day of dispensation for you all?
So I should have mentioned this.
Exit 89.
Yeah, it's Sundays and days of solemnity. We are encouraged to relax. One discipline of our choice. A couple of fraternities do it differently. So some in our community, they choose one discipline together and they do the same one. So I don't know if someone has a retirement party at work or so, I don't know, something, but they need cake that day or sweets, then the whole fraternity will say, okay, we'll do sweets together. My fraternity, we've left it up to personal choice. But then on top of that, one of the goals of this program is to increase in charity. So, we're supposed to be strict with our disciplines, but not at the expense of others. So, for example, my mother and I go out to dinner every year for Valentine's Day. I'm sure you all know it's impossible to get a reservation in Charleston unless you do it 3 months before, right? So, mine, the day we went out, fell, I think, on a Thursday night. And so I had a glass of wine with her for dinner. I was violating the no alcohol discipline, but again, it was in the spirit of having a loving dinner with my mother. And so I don't want to say it's a suggestion that disciplines are rules we're supposed to follow, but if it makes sense, the founders always kind of say apply common sense first. Yeah.
I think a good example was the one for the Notre Dame game, right? This national championship game. And his comment was that if you would have been watching this game anyway, and you're watching with your family, you should be in the room watching the game with your family. If you're not a Notre Dame fan or an Ohio State fan, you wouldn't have normally been sitting there watching the game. You would have been. You're just watching. You're just watching on your own because it's the game of the week or whatever. Then offer it up. But if your family, my wife and my kids are half Clemson fans. Clemson Notre Dame is kind of so we were watching the game because that's what the family was doing. It was better for me to be there watching the game than to go hide in the back room and be on my own. So there's a little bit of common sense approach to it. And then like St. Valentine's Day, to your point, was one of the ones, and my wife got to pick a couple of disciplines that I was able to relax that we enjoyed together. So that was neat.
Excuse me.
Well, if there's no other questions, it's almost 2 o'clock, so we want to thank
He's already set his clock ahead.
Yeah.